everybody, welcome back or welcome to Julia at Home. I'm a homeschool mom of 4 and here I share encouragement and inspiration and resources on homeschooling. I homeschool my 4 kids in the United States. I'm in the state of Vermont, which is in the Northeast. My kids range in age from 6th grade down to preschool. I have this year a 6th grader, a 4th grader, a kindergartner, and a preschooler who is 3. And we've started our homeschool year. And I like to share on this channel what we're doing for our curriculum each year, even though we've already started, and I'm sure most of you have already started and probably have already chosen your curriculum for the year. You know, this might still give you ideas for next year, the future, or whatnot, and I like to have the record on here. So this video, as usual, I'm starting with my family subjects. So these are subjects that we do as a group that are not individual. Then I will do videos on each of my children on the individual school subjects they're doing and the curriculum we're using for that. So keep your eye out over the next couple weeks. Those will all be coming out. But I know that many of you like the group subjects, so I decided to start with that. Now, this year, my kids are they're in pairs, right? They're in pairs 2 years apart. I've got the 6th and 4th grader are what I'm calling elementary pair. And then my kinder and preschooler, I'm calling like the preschool pair, even though it's really more aimed at like kindergarten level, the stuff with them. So we have group subjects that are for just my elementary age students, for just my preschool kinder students, and then we have a few that are for us all as a family. So hopefully it's not too confusing. I'm going to walk you through each of those categories and what we're doing. And I'm going to start with what we're all doing together. This year, I am making my older kids join us for circle time. Last year, I kind of let them off the hook and just focused circle time on the younger 2, and they're still involved, but I'm trying to make it more of like a family get-together experience. So it's shorter, but we're still doing our poems and our songs, mostly just seasonal, and we usually do one picture book that I try to pick that's either seasonal or like a character trait that I want to encourage in my children about kindness or something like that. And we share what we're grateful for. So that's kind of it's a time for us all to be together and settle into the day together. I have done a video before on how I plan our circle time, and you can actually see it, parts of it at least, in some of my day in the life videos, so you can go check those out if you're interested. But I am open to doing another video on it if people have questions or are interested, so let me know in the comments below. I tried to grab visual aids for you where I can for each subject. So the next subject is composer study. We have been doing this for years. And so basically I choose some composers. There's some great resources out there now. We listen to pieces of theirs and we learn about them, we discuss them, and we also learn about the composer's life. So I usually have picture books. This year we're doing Mozart, Beethoven, and Schubert. And so we're starting with Mozart. And so this is an example of a picture book that I have on Mozart. This is, I believe, Diane Stanley. I really like her. She has several biography books, usually historical figures. I think they're all historical figures. Usually from like the older, I think most of them I have are from like Renaissance, medieval, that time period. So yeah, this is a picture book on Mozart. And then, and I try to have at least one picture book for each composer. The Getting to Know series by Mike Venezia is another good one. I have several of those. And then I have a couple different resources for composer studies that you might want to check out if you are interested and feel like you need some sort of structure. And one is Squilt. I've showed both these before. I'm sure God. Super quiet, uninterrupted listening time. And they don't have a ton of options, but they have composers, and at first, it's really useful. They kind of walk you through how to do super quiet, uninterrupted listening time and what you're listening for. They give you information on just like little bits of information, and then they go through, I think, like 6 or so. Let's see, this one goes through 3 different pieces. And they'll have information, like specific information. Sorry, I'm gonna find it for you. So specific information on the piece. It actually has links. This is a digital file that I printed out. It has links to different places you can listen to it. And usually it compares different versions of it. And then it'll have other information, like, so this one talks a little bit more about the string family as well. So I like this, but they have, I like to use more pieces than are often in the Squilt guides. And so I need some more. And I've in the past also come up with my own. I kind of look up what are the most famous pieces by this composer and then go from there. But it is nice to have the extra additional information. The other resource I have is Music Study with the Masters, which is from Simply Charlotte Mason. And I should note, Squilt, I'm fairly certain, is a secular resource. Simply Charlotte Mason is not, but I haven't found a problem with I use both their music and their artist products. If you read through the biographies, it might become apparent, but I tend to use, because there's biographies included in each of their books, but I tend to use picture books and other resources instead of reading through the biography. But if that doesn't matter to you, then it does come with a biography that you can use instead of having to get a separate biography. And what I love about these ones is it actually comes with the CDs. So you can get a digital version and just find the music on your own, but I absolutely adore having the CDs. Of course, this is a little pricier, but I will just pop a CD in to play in the background while we're doing other school, and I absolutely love that. And then of course, it also goes through several pieces. I'm trying to remember how many this goes through. 8. This one goes through 8 different pieces and gives you, there's more than that on the CDs, but all 8 of those are on the CDs. And then it gives you a little bit of information on each one as well. So these are two resources. These are two resources that I highly recommend for composer study. If you feel like you want to try it out, but you're not sure how to do it, they will walk you through it. And of course, we're also doing artist study. This year we're starting off with Winslow Homer, who's an American artist. Then we're doing Hokusai, who's a Japanese artist from, I want to say the 1700s, but I could be off by a little bit on that. And then we're going to get into some Impressionists. So we're going to do Monet. And then if we have time, we're going to get into Cassatt. And then if we have more time, I'll do Degas. But I can always pick up with more Impressionists next year. I love the Impressionists, so I'm just leaning into that and going for it. I am trying to work a little bit more diversity in though. And so if you have some good ideas, the thing is the resources are mostly geared towards like the Western canon. So I'm using, again, the Simply Charlotte Mason. These are their picture study portfolios, and you can also get a digital guide, but I get it for the physical part of it. It comes with a little book. This is on Winslow Homer, and it has a biography again, and then for, I think there's like 10 or so, 9 or 10 pictures. It again has like a little description about them, and you can see it comes with these prints that you can see. There's more hanging up above the frame. You can't see them, but yeah. So because we've started learning about him, so they're up. I like to display them, and then I'll take one down for when we're actually doing picture study. I do, of course, also like to have picture books when I can. So Hokusai, this is a picture book. I found there's some beautiful picture books on artists and composers if you look around for them. And again, the Getting to Know You series, there's both artists and composers as part of that. So I also have some for artists. There are some other, especially some like online creators that do beautiful work, some other study guides that you can use. So I did find this Hokusai guide from ahumbleplace.com, and I purchased a digital copy and printed this out. And I don't know if they still are, but we're offering, you could also purchase prints that you could get, or you can just print them on your own. And then again, it's the same format, has a biography and then several different pictures, and it has the explanation. So, and another place I have found picture studies in the past, I believe I got a Frida Kahlo study from Wildflowers by Sarah. So that's a good option. Those are good options to look. I mean, you can just kind of Google picture study and artist name to see if you can find something, and that there may be some more diverse artists found that way. Like I just mentioned, we did Frida Kahlo, who's Mexican. Because again, Simply Charlotte Mason is focused more on the Western canon. And it's really nice to have, especially like at this point when I'm homeschooling 4 different ages, I need something simple. And so if something's planned out for me right at this point, it's much easier than me having to put together one, which I have done in the past. But right now I want stuff that's put together for me. So if you know of other places to get more diverse artist or composer guides, put it in the comments below so that I can see and other people can see as well, because that would be really helpful. Along with the picture study, I will also be using some of these artistic pursuits books. I've shown you these before, and they are, it's a whole series it's aimed at grades K through 3, and there's, I think there's 8 or 9 different volumes in the series. And the first one goes through just like a general overview of some art, but the rest of them are tied to history and or place. So this one's art in the Americas. So it kind of goes across time, but just in America. But this one's Impressionists. So I think this one, I have a Winslow Homer one. So when we study him, where is it? There we go. They incorporate picture study actually with it. So you do a picture study and then you do an art activity based on that picture study you just did. And there's also like a little bit about the artist. And so, yeah, so I don't have them for every artist, I think, but I do have at least Winslow Homer in here, and I should have Monet in here. Yeah, and I'm trying for each artist to find an activity inspired by them. For Hokusai, we will be doing, he did prints actually, where he carved and then printed. And so we will be trying that out. Art is another subject we will be doing all together. And the older kids are actually also doing their own art, but I'll get into that in their own individual videos. Together, I'm having us do the color dynamics book. This is based on Waldorf. It's like a Waldorf book. So there's some interesting things in it. I don't know if I fully buy into all of the different color theory things that they go into, but it's a fun exercise, like exploring different colors. It goes through each of the colors. I probably should have started at the beginning. It starts at the primary colors and then the secondary colors, and then mixing them. And then there's like a section on the rainbow. And it's all different things in here. I don't know if I could fully explain it. We obviously haven't done it yet. But it seemed like, my kids love painting, and it seemed like a really kind of nice, gentle way to explore color and also learn using watercolor and watercolor technique. And also just like, it allows them to do the process of art. And then those, like my oldest will probably want more of like a picture out of it, and she can do that. And my youngest won't care, and he'll just put color on the page. And so it really, I think, will allow for the broad range of expression, and I can just do whatever I feel like doing. The goal is for us all to sit and do it together. I like to put nice music on, and I think we all really enjoy it. So I'm excited to do this. The goal is once a week. We'll see if I can manage that this year, because we do love doing it. I mentioned this a bit ago when I was talking about the artists, but I also have these artistic pursuits books, and this is the first volume, and it just goes through like an overview of, it's like different mediums and methods of, I'm not entirely sure how to explain it, but like this one, there's a collage thing in here, and this one's like learning about still life. So it's like an overview of different art methods, techniques, things like that. So we're not going to probably work through this all the way, but I may pull some out of here. It's partially going to depend on time and energy as well. I am also doing a unit this fall with all the children on United States elections. And so I actually already filmed a video on that, and I think it's going to go up before this one. So you can watch that video if you're interested in more details, but I am involving all the children in most of it. So I have a lot of picture books, and we're talking about it. So we're doing it like right after circle time. We kind of stop and do our group subjects. So I'm doing that with them. And then there's parts of it that just the older two will do, but yeah, I'm counting that as all a subject for all of us. Science, so most of science is going to be aimed at the older two, but I'm going to try to incorporate the younger two. So I'm putting it in this all category as well. So we've actually, over the summer, been doing a unit on learning about different ocean animals, and we haven't finished it yet. So I'm just kind of continuing that into the school year. And that is definitely more involving the younger two children as well. We've been reading just a lot of picture books and looking at books like our Ocean Anatomy and Big Book of Blue to look at the animals in the ocean. And then we've been drawing in our nature journals and taking some notes. And then there's been some art activities, not every single time, but there's some art activities related to it as well. So I'm planning on doing another video when we wrap that up on all the resources for that. I have a lot of picture books for that. So stay tuned if you're interested. Then the rest of science, I'm gonna come back to with the elementary school kids, because even though the younger ones are gonna be kind of all involved in where I can, it really is aimed at them. So I'll come back to the rest of science. Some things that we will be trying to do monthly. One is nature journaling. If we could do it twice a month, that'd be great. But right now, if I can just get it monthly with everybody, that would be wonderful. This is my nature journal. I've done videos on this before where I like to do like the colors, like this is the colors of March, my colors of March page. And then we also do some other, when we like learn about something, like I just said, ocean animals. I haven't really been putting ocean animals in this. I've just been too busy with everything, but I do like to join them where I can. We did moss this last like February, March. Something I haven't done in years, and I used to do when my older two were little, and I miss it, is poetry tea times. These were kind of made famous, I suppose, by Julie Bogart of Brave Writer, and it's you make like a little tea party with some treats and some tea. We often do hot chocolate or something like that, and you bring poetry books to the table or just printed out poems, and you have the kids read. So I love this series. This is poetry for young people. I have several. They focus on different poets, and I have several. There's just a collection of their poetry, and it usually has pretty pictures, and yeah. So this is, again, Robert Louis Stevenson is great for younger kids, but they also have, like I know we have Emily Dickinson and Maya Angelou, Robert Frost, I think we have some others. And then this is just like older poetry book treasury, but there's lots of different treasuries you could use. This is just one I had when I was a child and teenager, and I absolutely love it. This is actually one, it's funny it's tagged. I actually had this, we've been doing that at part of our circle time. This month. It's The Farmer and the Queen by Shel Silverstein. I won't give it away, but if you want to, go look that poem up because it is hilarious. We also do some field trips. That's not every week. If we could go once a month, that'd be great, but it's really weather dependent, so we tend to go on more field trips like this time of year when it's beautiful out, and fewer when it's very cold and icy out. So yeah, but the goal would be to do one a month. And that's, I mean, it could be a variety of things. I love to go outside and hike. There's different parks and trails for us to hike on here. And then there's some places that we like to go. Like most years, we haven't gone this year, but most years we go to Fort Ticonderoga. There's some nice museums nearby. Echo, if you're in the Burlington area ever of Vermont and you have kids, Echo is like a little science museum / like kind of like an aquarium. They have some, it focuses on Lake Champlain and the creatures that live there. So we really enjoy Echo. So things like that are our field trips. Another thing I'm going to try to do monthly that is new this year are game days. We have so many board games that we love to play, and especially during the winter, I try to play weekly. On the weekends, we've set aside an afternoon, especially my big two and my husband and I. But we also have great games for preschool age and like educational games. And so what I want to do is set aside a day each month that is just like a game day, where maybe we have some more snacks and play games and eat snacks. And I'll probably try to come up with like, let's pick a couple educational games, like pick from this pile and from this pile, from this pile, and make sure I'm playing with the younger two first, and then maybe they can play while I'm playing with the older two. I'm hoping that that can work. In the past few years, it's been a little bit harder to play with the younger two without giving them screen time because they don't know how to play the game correctly. They can lose the pieces and stuff, so it can be difficult, but they're 3 and 5 now, so I'm hoping we can find a way to make it work and just play more board games in school. The last thing that is a subject for everybody is our family read aloud. And this one actually also includes my husband, because we like to do this after dinner, but before bedtime. It's actually kind of on the early part of our bedtime routine after picking up. And we're starting with Farmer Boy. Well, we've been doing it over the summer, and we just finished Dealing with Dragons, which is it's the first in the Enchanted Forest Chronicles, and I really like it. I've been trying to aim these more at the kindergartner. She's just really starting to be able to sit through more of the chapter books. I mean, not an entire chapter book, but to sit through longer reading of it and follow along. So I've been trying to do some of the ones that we did when, my oldest was her age. And so this is part of the Little House series, but it's actually a little different. It's about Laura Ingalls' husband, but before they met. This is his childhood. It's based on his childhood in New York State on a farm. So Farmer Boy. And I thought It's also connected with the time period we're learning about in school. So it's about Almanzo. This is his team of oxen calves that he trains and everything. So very cute. I'm going to talk about the preschool kindergartner subjects next. So those were all family subjects. Let's do preschool kindergarten. So first of all, as part of our circle time, we always start with the calendar and like moving the ring on the calendar and counting the days and stuff. And so what I've been doing is actually just doing that part with the younger two, because the older two, they know the calendar, they can look and see what day it is, and they really don't want to be involved in that. So that I'm doing with the younger two, and then we call the bigger kids in and start the rest of circle time. So that's their own thing. And then I'll come back to calendar later as well. But I want to talk about literature for them is fairy tales this year. This is a treasury of children's literature, and it has a bunch of fairy tales in it. I have several different fairy tale treasuries. And so we're going to be going through. I tried to make a list of the most important ones. I don't know. Like, how do you rank fairy tales? I don't know. And we might do some, like, watch some of the movies as well after reading them. And I'm also trying to get them to like draw something from the fairy tale after we read it. So far with mixed results. French. I have gotten a lot of pushback from my older two on doing languages. So I've been taking, last couple of years, I haven't been doing foreign language with them, except that I practice and speak it on my own sometimes, so they do hear it. But my kindergartner has been interested in doing French with me, so I'm doing French with the younger two. We count in French on our calendar, and then I'm using a variety of sources, I guess, but this is from 1/3 Stories. I've been enjoying them. They get their books that they like add words in the language as you go, so you can see those bold words are in French, and this one has like colors and numbers. Is the first one. And then it comes with an audio, like a digital audio recording, so that you can listen to it, which for me is super helpful with French because I find it super difficult to pronounce. So that's really great. And it also comes with some activities, which we haven't used as much. But yeah, this, and I have some other things too, but I'm still kind of fiddling with them and figuring out exactly how to use them. So I wanted to show you this one though. I will link to 1/3 Stories below. Then they're going to be doing physical geography. So I did this when the older two were younger, and I actually may pull the older two in for part of it as well. I'm trying to figure out how to do that, but I'm also like worried about overloading the older two. So I have this in the preschool kinder category right now. We will be starting the year with land and water forms, and I have this, this has more than we focus on, but it like just goes through different land and water forms and has the definitions from all of them, for all of them. And then I have other picture books, and hopefully we'll be modeling, like using some clay or something like that to make like physical, like lakes and islands and stuff. And we'll be looking out in nature and stuff too. So the first part will be land and water forms. Then we're going to do a little section on maps and navigating. So kind of learning like northeast, north, south, east, west, and things like that. And then we're going to go into biomes. I have this book, and of course then I have a lot more picture books involved, and I will try to do 1 or 2 videos depending on how I want to organize it on these things. This one gets into different, like there's the desert and temperate evergreen rainforest. This probably has more categories in this book than I'll want to go into, but we'll read this. That's physical geography that I really want them to start with that, and then next year they'll start on more of the like countries and things like that. We'll probably do around the world geography with them next year. And then I have a couple units which are not going to go over the course of the whole year, but one is on time and the calendar, which is kind of 2 separate things. The calendar, again, I said I'd come back to it, but it's you know, the months of the year, the days of the week, things like that, getting the rhythm and understanding it. And I can see my kindergartners trying to like work all that out. And then, so yeah, so doing some more activities and stuff and books on that for them. And then also reading the clock. So we do analog, and then I also will throw in the digital as well, but the analog's harder to read. So I have some games and activities for that. So those will probably be done at separate times. Then another unit we're going to do is instruments. I have a lot of different activities. I did this with my older two, again, years ago. So I still have there's a Meet the Instrument bundle from Squilt. and they have lots of different like activities that I've printed out and saved. So that's what a lot of this is. And then these are instrument tube figures. Yeah, we'll be doing a little study of instruments and instrument families, and there's also things to listen to on that. So I think a lot of the stuff is included in my, I'm forgetting the exact title of the video, but I'll link it here. It's kind of on like an introduction to music that I did. It's part of the instrumentation part. We're just focusing on the instrumentation part right now. They are also, as I said, doing composer study with us. So we will also be talking about the other elements in there, like rhythm and tempo and mood and all that. But yeah, I want to do a special focus on instruments with them. Then I also wanted to mention, it's not really something I have scheduled in thus far, but I want to be aware of incorporating them into baking and cooking because they really enjoy it. So just trying to come up with times where they can help me. I don't necessarily want them helping me all the time because honestly it stresses me out a little bit, but they do love to bake and cook. So if I can find ways to incorporate them that are not stressful for me, that's good. For example, I know the kindergartner, we do a meal, we call it Greek Buddha bowl, where it's just like a bunch of different things chopped up, and she has her own special kid's knife and she'll chop the olives and the feta and stuff. So she likes doing that. And then I know the little guy loves helping with baking, like any sort of mixing of anything, he's there. So yeah, I haven't quite scheduled that in, but I'm trying to be aware of it. I'm finally moving on to my elementary kids group subjects. So first of all is their own read aloud, because as I said, I've been focusing the family read aloud on the younger age group, especially the kindergartner, but I don't want to let go of those like older reads. I love them and I think they enjoy them, and they're helpful for history as well. So some of them are for history. For example, we're going to be doing Prairie Lotus as we do like westward expansion in the United States. And then I do want to incorporate some fun ones though. I love to read, and my kids, especially my oldest, loves to read. And so I try to find ones that we'll enjoy and we can enjoy together. And so these are not, we've read these last year. This is Ravenfall and Hollowthorn, but the third one's coming out, and I think it's Witch something. They're really good for the Halloween season. Oh, this one takes place on Halloween, and this one takes place during Hanukkah. Gets into Celtic mythology, and this one gets into Jewish mythology. And the next one apparently is about witches. I don't know if it gets into any mythology, but it seems very cool. So I pre-ordered that, and I'm really excited to read that, and that's just for fun. History. Now, I do have Curiosity Chronicles still, a snapshot of modern history, and we will be using this, but I don't think I'm going to go all the way through it like I've been doing the last few years. I have been missing doing our units, and I don't have time to slow down as much for the units if we're trying to get to everything in here. And I've noticed that they're not retaining everything anyway. So if I can get some broad strokes in there, that's probably better. And it will be more fun for me. So I decided to go that route. So what we're doing is I'm trying to get from, we're starting somewhere in like the earlier 1800s. I'm trying to get through the 1800s. Ideally we'd get through World War I, which is like 19 teens, but we might stop right before then. So I'm hoping to get about 100 years in history done through units. So we started this summer, we covered Victorian Britain, and the Victorian period is actually pretty much all of that time period. I think she became queen in 1830 something, and then she died right around 1900, I think. So that whole time period is the Victorian period. Lots happened during that time period. So we kind of just got an overview of that, what was going on in Britain itself at that time, and we're actually still finishing up that unit. I'm moving slowly as usual. We're gonna finish it up with a little bit of British imperialism and then colonizing and doing things around the world, like in India, for example. So we're gonna touch on that. And then we're gonna come back to the United States. We're going to I just mentioned westward expansion of the United States, which will incorporate the Trail of Tears, Indian removal, things like that. But also like the Oregon and Santa Fe trails, that kind of stuff, the gold rush, the railroads being built. So hopefully there's a lot of different things in there. I'm hoping that I will be able to put together videos for these units for you with the resources we use. And then we'll be getting into the Civil War in the United States, which again was in the 1860s. Part of that, there's like bookends to it. We're actually going to start with talking about like the things that led up. There were compromises made with states that allowed slavery and states that didn't, and also like the Underground Railroad, all the things that kind of set up and led up to the action of the Civil War itself. And then I definitely want to focus a bit on Reconstruction. So I'm kind of trying to think of those three separate things as a big Civil War unit. We don't learn a lot about Reconstruction and what happened there in school. So that's something I want to focus on for both myself and my kids. Even if they just remember a little bit of it, it'll be better than nothing. Hopefully I don't miss something. I'm going off of memory with the different units, but I do have it written down on my computer. I have it typed up. Industrialization, I kind of like the Gilded Age type thing that's at the end of like Industrial Age era, Gilded Age era, end of the 1800s into the beginning of the 1900s, where you have factories, but then workers' rights are happening, women's rights are happening. There's just like a lot going on. So I'm trying, it's kind of like a big Gilded Age unit to incorporate a lot of that's happening, probably focused on the US, but also what's going on around the world. I want to touch on what is happening in Asia and then what's happening in Africa at the time. Africa, there's a lot of colonization and the Europeans getting in there and doing things. So I want to address that, and I don't actually know what's happening in Asia in the 1800s, so I'm going to find that out so we can cover that. And then I believe that brings us to World War I, which is World War I. So I think that's everything I kind of want to cover this school year. Again, I'm going to be doing units. I've decided what the units are. I have, obviously we're finishing up Victorian Britain. I have all the stuff together for our westward expansion stuff. So I'm actually still planning the rest of the units. I have some Civil War stuff just because I already had it, because it's been a particular interest of mine since I was a child. I'm going to try to do a video taking you along with how I think through and plan one of those units. If you like that idea, let me know in the comments below. For science, you actually got a hint if you watched my chemistry review video, but I'm not using a full curriculum this year. Instead, I am using these Explore books. So we're doing physics, and yeah, so I decided I liked the Explore books that I did along with our curriculum for chemistry so much last year. I just decided I'm gonna use some of those. So we're not covering everything that's included in like a full physics curriculum, but I've created 2 units to use. So one is based on the Forces in Motion book here. So it's things like gravity, Newton's laws, really. So gravity, the laws of motions, magnetism, and forces at work. So the simple machines. And I also have some other resources to go with that. But again, that's a whole nother video, exactly all the details of that. And then the other unit is on light and optics, and I'm also adding sound. So this one doesn't have sound, but I do have some books. Basically, I wanted to cover all the waves, well, sound and light waves. And then also we'll get into a little bit of optics, but we'll probably focus on the light and sound waves. And yeah, so these are focused on the 4th and 6th grader, but I will be incorporating the younger 2, especially when we do light. I'm hoping to do like rainbows as part of that, and so I'll have some separate rainbows activities that will be aimed at the younger ones. It might be like a mini rainbows unit inside our science unit kind of thing. But yeah, I'm excited. I've put together some books and trying to keep it somewhat simple, but I have books and I have resources like some simple machine things that they can play with. So I'm really excited about that. Then for geography with the older 2, I am going to be doing 2 different things. So first of all, we're starting the year focused on the United States. We did the United States a couple years ago, I want to say like 3 years ago. And with the election happening and stuff and us doing the US election unit, I thought it'd be good to do a review. So it's basically just map drill. If you've been following me for a while, you've seen this, our trusty chalkboard maps. These are from Chock full of Design. And I know they closed at one point, but then I think they like reopened with new ownership. So they may or may not still exist. I'll link them if they do. But yeah, we have these so that they can, and I'm hoping to do both the states and then the capitals, especially with the 6th grader. She can do it. And spelling the states and capitals with, well, at least spelling the states and knowing all the states with the 4th grader. We'll see how he does in capitals. And then the 6th grader spelling both states and capitals. So my plan is to just do that in the fall, and then I want to do Asia. So I don't have the maps printed out for that yet, but I will do what I did for the Americas, which is I like find a black line map online, I print it out, and then I laminate it, and so then they can use dry erase markers on it. So I will do that with Asia. And I like to also incorporate some other things to give us a flavor for some of the different countries and areas. And Asia has like some, there's the Middle East is part of Asia, and then there's like India, and that's Southeast Asia, and then there's like, well, Russia we did as part of Europe, so I'm just gonna, we'll obviously label it and everything on the map. I don't think we'll focus a lot on Russia. There's obviously China and Mongolia, and there's like the Koreas and Vietnam and Japan, and yeah. Anyway, I found some beautiful units on different countries by Thistles and Biscuits, and I bought all the Asian ones I could find. So I'm going to use those and hopefully also get some picture books to use with them. They have, I don't know how to describe all of them. They each have at least one recipe, I think, and like coloring pages, and then different like just items of cultural significance that they highlight, I guess is a good way to put it, for different countries. So I think I have one on Afghanistan. I wanted to have at least one on like each of the different areas of Asia. So yeah, I'm excited about that, but I haven't quite, I bought those and I have them on my hard drive, but I have to like print them out and do the map and all that planning still. So I'll get there, but that's my plan. We're doing US. We started with US already, and then we'll do that later. I am required by my state to do health, and so I'm not always great about doing it, and often what happens is I throw something together at the last minute at the end of the school year. However, we do talk about stuff a lot, so it's not like I'm disregarding it completely. We're just having conversations, and I don't necessarily have things to show for it. But my thought this year was we would focus a little bit more on just general healthy habits and nutrition, and like maybe like eating a variety of colors in our diet. I've already talked to the older two a bit about like, our macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, and things like that, and how there's different micronutrients in different colors of veggies and such. So yeah, we just like kind of talk about that, but I need to come up with some sort of like physical work for it. So I might have them do some recipes, and because that's a obviously great life skill to have too, is I want them to be able to cook several things before they leave my house. Just have a couple recipes under their belt so that they can feed themselves and maybe some friends if necessary. So, and then we can work, the little two as well can be partially involved in that, but yeah, I'm not reporting for the younger two yet. I'll start reporting. You don't have to report in our state until they're 6, and so my kindergartner won't be in 6 till June, so I'll report for her for first grade. So I don't have to worry as much about doing something formal with them. But yeah, that's my plan for health. Hopefully I covered all the subjects. As I've said before in my videos, just so you know, in case you're new here, or just to emphasize that we do not do all of these every day. Some of these are once a week. Some of these are once a month. A few of these are occasionally when I do it, like health. Circle time is really the only one that's most days that I talked about. And then the other ones, again, usually once a week or once a month. Some of the units, like we're not gonna be doing election unit and instruments and calendar all at once. We'll spread them out. So yeah, I don't want you to feel like, oh my goodness, I have to do all this. You also do what your family likes to do. If you don't like one of these subjects, well, okay, I say you probably should, especially if you're older kids, probably should be doing science and history and geography. But otherwise, you don't have to do artist study and art and composer study. My point is, if something's stressing you out, you don't have to do it, or you can do it in a different way, or do it less frequently. So that's kind of my 2 cents. That's my encouragement on that. There are times that I drop some stuff, and I don't do as much of it. We may not get through all of the composers or all the artists because I take a break or just slow down. So yeah, a little bit of encouragement for you, because I know I'm sharing a lot. But I am really trying to focus this year on the things that have brought me joy in our homeschool in the past. And a lot of those things are the group subjects, especially things like art and reading, read alouds and such. So I am trying to, my youngest is 3, so I'm trying to get back into that groove, if you will. Okay, friends, make sure you click that thumbs up button if you liked that video. And if you're still here, I really hope you liked it. Also, if you haven't subscribed, click that subscribe button as well. It really does help me out. And share this with anyone you think might enjoy it. That also helps me out quite a bit. If you have any comments or questions, go ahead and put them on below. I enjoy reading all of them. As always, I hope you are healthy and well. Bye, friends.